Hello! Hello, and welcome to the Hero Report podcast. It's been a long time since we recorded a podcast for a wide variety of reasons that we'll talk about shortly. But with me, as always, no longer from sunny Michigan, now from very far away in Australia on a perhaps 2-second delay because of the distance that the internet has to travel. Is the Hero Construction Company's own Matt Langdon. Matt, thanks for joining me. I didn't introduce myself. I was so excited. I'm Ari Cohen. I am a professor of political science at the University of Nebraska, and here we are again. It's been a long time no see, Matt. How are you?
I'm well. Last time we saw each other, I was in transit through LA, and you were there for the Rose Bowl.
That's true. That's true. And I hadn't even begun to grow this beard that people who are only listening to the audio portion of this podcast will not be able to appreciate, but that anyone who is watching on video undoubtedly is awed by. A very special bearded edition of the Hero Report podcast.
A very impressive beard.
Yeah, thank you. This is my sabbatical beard. Now I am on sabbatical. I am home, not teaching this semester, simply doing research, and having a really good time of it. So I'm glad now to be able to be back recording the Hero Report with you, since I have, fortunately, since I have some time and some flexibility, unlike my typical semesters when I'm teaching.
Well, that is good news because that's you and me both. We've both got some time. We've just got a time zone to worry about.
Right. You are. We should tell people you are how many hours ahead?
I'm 17 hours ahead of you.
Wow. So what's going to happen, Matt?
Well, it's going to be a cloudy morning.
Yeah.
I can't promise that where you are, though.
No. Are there any stocks I should buy? Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Haven't been checking. Is the Super Bowl this weekend?
Yeah. Look at that. He goes away. He goes away, and now all he cares about is Aussie rules football, which is on hiatus right now. So what does he care?
Right. They do show the Super Bowl live here, though, so maybe I'll get to see it.
Oh, lucky you. That would be terrific. Matt, there are so many questions that I think we should talk about today, since we've been gone so long. But I don't want this to be like an unwieldy 3-hour-long pod. So I think we should sort of break it up and assume that we'll be back doing this again in a week or two. The first thing, though, that I think we should talk about, I think the last time we met, we did kind of a wrap-up edition of the Hero Roundtable conference that took place in early November, and since then, obviously, a lot of planning has taken place for this year, for 2014's Hero Roundtable, and I thought maybe we'd talk for a few minutes about the way that the Hero Report can either contribute to the Hero Roundtable work, can piggyback off of it, or what we see as kind of 2014's Hero Report future.
Well, that's a big question.
Yes.
I do think we can piggyback. I think a lot of the speakers at last year's conference and even attendees were interested and are interested in talking more. I think, and that was part of the whole point of the conference, was to get that happening. So I think that's a good start, and then we can start inviting speakers from this year's conference to come on here and kind of preempt their talks a little bit and explain why they're excited about being there this year. So, I think there's definitely a connection there, but obviously we want to get into our hard news investigations as well that we've done in the past. We've had some successful episodes, I think, talking about news, movies, that kind of thing. Yeah,
absolutely right. I think that reflecting on sort of what's going on in the news with heroism is useful. I think that certainly 2014 will be a fine year for heroism in film, and obviously there's no shortage of people using and abusing the idea of heroism in popular culture and in our newspapers and so on. So I think certainly in addition to talking with speakers from the conference and talking with people we happen to find, as we did in the past, who have some a particular speciality to share with us. I think that a good plan for us going forward is the one that we have adhered to, I do think that our audience clamors for more of our thoughts, and in particular my grumpy old man routine when it comes to talking about what counts as heroism.
Right, absolutely. Has been a highlight, obviously. So
yeah,
we well, sorry, I'm completely lost. We've started collecting speakers for the conference. Probably got 7 or 8 confirmed so far, and are reaching out to others. And I guess that's one thing that viewers and listeners could do for us is suggest potential speakers. So we obviously don't know everyone, and we're pleasantly surprised often when we find someone who's been talking and writing about heroism for years, and they just have been doing it in isolation. Had that happen yesterday with an education speaker. Wasn't expecting to hear the level of research she'd done on courage and moral courageous action. So that was fantastic. So yeah, more guests.
Yeah, without a doubt. So people who hear this, people who have an interest in the topic, you should get in touch with us, and you should tell us, hey, I saw this person writing about heroism online, or this person is clearly interested in the way you're thinking about things, or thinks about it quite differently. We've had a lot of success in the past talking with people who have very different understandings of the concept from the one that we have, and I hope that we'll continue to have those productive conversations. Shoot us an email. Get in touch with us. Send us a note on Twitter or comment on this when you see it as a blog post or in iTunes, and we'd be happy to have that information. We'll take it and run with it, obviously.
Yeah, and Ari, you don't always beat down people who disagree with you?
No, and if I do, it's in a friendly way.
Yeah, not every time, anyway.
That's right. I think that reminds me. I think you sent me that it was an undergraduate newspaper. I think at the University of Mary Washington. You sent my way last week, where a student was writing about CNN heroes, which we've talked about quite often on this podcast in the past, and it was very much sort of resonated with things that we had said, right? That it was a kind of a mistake the way that CNN had been using the term heroism. And I got some pushback when I posted that on my blog, which I thought was so interesting. Someone wrote, there's plenty of room for a popular culture way of thinking about heroism, and for a more kind of history of Western civilization way of thinking about heroism, which I guess is how I think of it. And I wanted to push back against that, but I thought it was so interesting that we should at least talk about it for a minute or two. Do you think there's room in the world, Matt, for more than one way of thinking about heroism? In other words, everyone jokes about the use of the word literally, which now apparently also means not literally. Do you think there's room for heroism to mean things that are not really heroic also?
Well, I think we've talked about this before. This is obviously these people are not watching the show that are leaving these comments on your blog, so you need to fix that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's room. I think the more room you give a word, the less value the word has. I do think there's a distinction, and we've expressed this distinction before, but we haven't really looked at any research, probably because there isn't any, on the element of time in heroism. So a heroic act that's done once quickly in response to something, as opposed to the heroism executed over time for a cause. So I think those are different types of people. I think they might not be. They might be just having different opportunities. But the acts are quite different, I think. But after that, we need a different word, and we have different words for people that we look up to, or people that are nice, or people that are doing good things. We've already got the words. We don't need to use another word for them.
Yeah, that's exactly my thinking, right? I mean, you know, you and I, obviously, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and so I'm not surprised to find us in agreement here. It'd be great to find some more people who disagree with us on this topic, actually, and really kind of plumb those depths. But it seems to me we have so many words. I don't know why we need to keep narrowing the number of words that we use to talk about these things that people do. You could be a perfectly altruistic person. You could be a really a wonderful person. You could be nice and friendly and helpful, but that doesn't mean you're a hero, right? And this is where I went, obviously, when I responded to those comments, right? And my suggestion was in the examples that CNN is using, there's no risk, there's no sacrifice. So what makes it heroic without risk or sacrifice? And the pushback on that I also thought was interesting, right? And this is the idea or the claim that, you know, who are we to judge risk and sacrifice, right? Someone may be sacrificing their time or doing, you know, doing something where they could be doing any other number of things that they preferred, or sacrificing their resources or whatever. I got to tell you, I don't have a lot of time for that comment either, right? I don't find it particularly compelling because, once again, I don't think that you know, cleaning up trash is. I don't want to go down the road where we refer to picking up after yourself or picking up after others as a sacrifice, right? I think that it's something not enough people do, but I don't think that we encourage more people to do it by calling it heroic or by calling it a sacrifice. It seems to me that it's charitable. It seems to me that it's altruistic and it's helping behavior, and we want to encourage all of those things. But at the same time, we go too far when we say, you know, donating money to charity or volunteering with a nonprofit or whatever counts as some sort of deep sacrifice.
Well, I think, right, there's a point where donation of time or goods becomes a sacrifice when it really changes your life, right? If you donate everything that you have to a cause and become homeless or really change your life, your level of life quality to help others, then there's a difference, right? And that's where the idea of heroic sacrifice came from. But giving $100 a week for a middle class person to a cause is not heroic. It doesn't change your life enough to warrant the term sacrifice.
No, it's just great, right? It's great. People should do that. I totally encourage it. But I don't encourage it by devaluing what it means to really sacrifice. You know, and I think it's important to say too, you know, we're not suggesting, you know, that everyone should, move out of their homes and find other people who need them to move into them, or that, you know, you should give away everything except the dollar you're using at that moment or whatever. We're not pushing that on people. What we're suggesting is, you know, you can do lots of great things and still not be putting yourself at risk, not be you know, endangering yourself or really sacrificing something. And to my mind, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where people really kind of get their hackles up. They think ultimately the people who are talking about a standard, a solid definition of heroism are denigrating others or putting people down or whatever by saying you're not heroic and everyone should go be heroic. I'm okay with not everybody putting themselves in jeopardy all the time, right? I am suggesting that it's a good idea to recognize what it means to be a hero, because that's the only way to prepare yourself for a time when it might be required of you to do something heroic, and to practice these, small acts, right? Be altruistic, be helpful, go out of your way to positively impact the lives of others. Yeah, those are all good things, and they all put you on the path to acting in the way ultimately we think would be heroic if the situation arose. But there's nothing wrong with not throwing yourself wholly into things every day. At least that's my I live comfortably. I didn't move to Australia last month, so at least that's my take on it.
Right, right. Well, and one thing you said there that made me think too is this idea that we could call someone an altruist or say that they are showing altruism, but I think there might be something there that that's not a common word. It's not something that the average person is comfortable using in random conversation. So I think there might be something there that hero is just an easy go-to word. And people might agree that it's altruistic, but they're just not. That's just not in their day-to-day vocabulary, and hero means the same thing for them in common usage. So I think that's and other words have got negative connotations, or they've become more narrow. Maybe what's a role model? I think people use the word hero as a super role model. They're a role model, but they're my favorite role model.
Yeah, that's right. What was it? It was Aaron Donaghy who spoke at the Hero Roundtable, right? I wrote this blog post about it because I was so taken with the idea. Yeah, he said a champion, right? Be someone's champion, and I thought, boy, that sounds really good, right? I think that's a great way of thinking about it, because altruist, you're right, that doesn't sound great. I like champion. A friend of mine we were having this conversation after the blog post on Facebook, and he suggested mensch, right? Be a mensch. That great. I take it from the Yiddish. To be a good guy, be a good person. Those seem to me to be words we could substitute for altruist, and maybe those will catch on. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Maybe it would be interesting for us to get a linguist into the Hero Roundtable to track the usage of, or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually that's a really interesting idea. It'd be fun to see sort of how that works. We could do our own work on this and go to the Oxford English Dictionary and trace it back and see what's going on. But even to have someone whose profession this is, I think it'd be fun. We should start looking for that.
Yeah. I think tracking usage over decades or centuries, I think there's that could be very interesting.
Yeah, where did we go wrong?
Well, I mean, you've done some of that. I mean, that the word hero meant something very different 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, I mean, that's in some sense, that's the premise of my book, right? Which has been flying off the shelves, by the way. Thanks for asking. Very, very popular. The idea is, if you go back and look, people thought quite differently in ancient Greece about what it meant to be heroic, and there were clear archetypes of heroism, and we've lost so much of that. That's why we find ourselves in a situation where we are now, right? Where you could call whatever you want heroic, and any person who seems to do something you approve of can be your hero. I think that that simply wasn't the way this was understood in the past.
Yeah, even 100 years ago, Zeno Franco talked about that with World War One, the definition of hero changed around, and maybe World War Two, but yeah, things have changed, and like you say, it's very hard to question anyone's usage of the word hero because it seems that everyone has this personal right to use it however they want, which would be interesting if we just did that with every word. Well, and I guess we do to a certain extent, but your example of literally, I mean,
yeah, literally, that's what we do.
Right, right, and I mean that. The English language especially has got a long tradition of that repurposing words, but yeah, there's no backup words for what we just describe as heroic, though. There aren't any other words that communicate the same way, I think, and that's why that's why we're upset about losing it.
That's right, and I mean, I think I've been fighting this rear guard action for years, right? My students love to use the phrase "beg the question," and you hear it now all the time, right? Jon Stewart says it; it's on CNN. People just use the phrase "beg the question" now, and every one of them uses it wrong. Yeah, it's incorrect. It's an incorrect usage. Because beg the question is a sort of philosophical term of art, right? It's a particular phrase that means a particular thing. That is to assume the answer to a question that hasn't been discussed or raised. It's a philosophical mistake to beg the question. That's not how it's being used, right? It's being used to forcefully raise a question, right? I really want to ask this question. But that's wrong. And so I stand on this. I say, don't use it incorrectly in your papers. I hand out, there's one of those dinosaur comics. We'll link to it. I hand that out. I have it on my office door. But nothing's being lost, to be perfectly honest, right? It's just my own idiosyncratic love of words meaning what they mean. But with heroism, I do think something's being lost. Right? You touched on this a second ago, and I just want to underscore it. I think that when we play so fast and loose with this word, when anything is heroic just because I like it, I think that we run into a real serious difficulty down the road, right? Where it's very hard to inspire people to act heroically because, hey, they think they already are, right? I signed an online petition, so I'm a hero, and that means I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do the hard work of actually advocating for a cause, going to a protest, meeting with my congressman, right? Whatever. I did the heroic thing. Yeah, I clicked. I think these are the kinds of things that we're likely to see down the road. I'm already heroic. I don't have to go save somebody's life. Because this person likes me, right? I picked my friend up at the bus station when nobody else was going to pick her up, and I'm a hero.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if there's. I read a discussion on the bystander effect yesterday and how the best thing to do. It was specifically to do with first aid. So if you see someone hurt, instead of saying someone call 911, it's hey, you in the red shirt, call 911, or you get their name first and say get very specific and show their identity and that sort of thing, or show that you've identified them as an individual. I wonder if and I'll preface this by saying I don't think it's true, but I wonder if there's the idea that people think of themselves as heroes, that I've already done this, so I'm a hero, would increase their likelihood of doing something actually heroic. That they've got that self-identity already. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I bet there's research on the way that so-called slacktivism means less activism. I think we should look it up. Let's talk about it next time, because obviously my inclination is no, right? If I'm able to spin myself a good story about why I don't need to do anything further, I'm doing enough, I'm working hard enough, and someone else will probably do this, and they need to do it because they haven't clicked on the online petition like I have.
Right.
Now I mean, that's my suspicion, but I imagine lots of people, who thought they were, good enough people, in the various terrible situations that people find themselves in, and who we know don't do anything, right? It seems to me one more out, and when people get these outs, they latch onto them. It's often people who say, I can't do anything else, right? I must do this. Those are people who act heroically. This is, this is my, this is bedrock for me, right? This is the thing where I can't turn away. I tend to think there are too few people who say, whatever it takes, this is how I think about myself, and I have, I must act.
Right. Well, let's
That's my opening screed of 2014.
Right. Well, that's been a pretty impressive episode, considering we didn't have anything to talk about half an hour ago.
You know what? You turn a computer on, you point me at Australia, and I'm ready to go.
Okay. That's the nature of the Hero Report, really.
You know what? I think, and that is what people have come to love. That is what people expect. It's my furious responses to things I only just started thinking about, and your good-natured way of bringing us back to reality.
Indeed.
I do think there's a whole lot of heroism out there these days, Matt, and I think that we'll have a good 2014 of discussion. I think that one thing that we could try to do, we briefly mentioned this 20 minutes ago or whatever, but I really do think as much as we can, it would be great to bring people on, third parties who disagree with us, and have a show where we really look at, the angles of a particular story, and see where it takes us. I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely, and very frustrating probably too.
Yeah, for everybody. That's what the internet is for, though.
Right. TV.
Oh, I think we might be getting the famous Australia internet blackout. Oh, is he back? Matt, are you there?
I seem to be here. At my end, I'm here.
Oh, now you're back. You froze there for a second. I think the kangaroo that was bouncing around with your router caused some problems, but it seems like he bounded back into your yard, so that's good news.
Yeah, he jumped over the lead-lined fence there for a minute.
Terrific. One of these days, maybe it'll be in our next episode, you can tell us about the frightening and delightful creatures of Australia, which is one of my favorite things to talk about, as you know. I will. Yeah, we'll see if we can work Australian animals in. Maybe I'll start naming different episodes of the Hero Report after different Australian animals.
That's probably best, yeah. But I think you only know 2, so we might have to get a book out.
I know a lot of them. I know a lot. I know the kangaroo and the wallaby and the koala and the duck-billed platypus.
Impressive.
And that horrible spider that you told me about. What was that one? What was the horrible spider?
The huntsman.
Yeah, right. That one too. And I bet there's like 800 varieties of deadly snake, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, we've got some nightshade in our backyard as well. I was told 2 days ago.
Good, well.
So don't let your kid eat the berries off that plant; they'll die.
No, that's helpful. Yeah. The thing I like most, and this is a good way to close. The thing that I like most about what you've done, Matt, is that it's heroic.
Right.
You have traveled to a place where literally everything around you is deadly.
That is literally true.
Yeah, I think that I couldn't be more impressed, but not just of you, because you're from Australia, so no big deal, right? But your wife and child have put themselves in danger in so many ways. And they
Yeah,
seem,
they are the true heroes.
they are the true heroes of this because not just are they in danger, but they seem, from the photos that I've seen on Facebook, they seem so happy about it, right? Adventure, excitement, and terrible, terrible danger. I just think it's just terrific. I mean, I'm excited every day to see what's going to happen next.
Well, I'll keep you updated for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And tell those heroes I said hello. And to all the heroes who have been watching this, you know I really don't think you guys are heroes. But I do like you a lot. So thanks for watching and thanks for listening. We'll be back, I think, next week to do this again because, Matt, it's been too long. We shouldn't have left people without a great hero report.
That's true. It's true. We're back.
Yes.
It's February here. It's January there. We'll get ourselves into the same month.
Oh my gosh! I didn't even think about that. That is amazing. We're talking to one another from different months.
That is the case.
How did we not lead with that?
Right. We'll try again next month.
Yeah, that's the #1 mistake we've made in podcasting so far. Okay, well, until next time, everyone, thanks again for listening, and drop us a line. Let us know what you want to hear more about, snakes or whatever else, how the kangaroos orient the wireless signal, what February is going to be like. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Take care.